Confucius say, man who stand in front of truck, get tired. Man who stand behind truck, get exhausted. Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Waldo, and in this video we're going to be taking care of some front end steering sloppiness and doing a DIY alignment. This is Belly Bob, my GMC C3500HD that I purchased for only $300. I've swapped in a 5.9 Cummins and an Eaton Fuller transmission from a Freightliner. After building a custom flatbed, I've finally got the truck on the road, and now we're just getting started with the adventures. Yeah, so starting out in the cab, you can see that the steering wheel has quite a bit of play. If you look underneath the truck, you can actually see that it's caused by the steering gearbox. Interestingly enough, I somewhat recently replaced that steering gear with a remanufactured unit, and it came with that much play in it. All right, so what do we do about all that looseness? Well, right up here is an adjusting screw that we can use to tighten it up. So the adjustment here is pretty simple in theory. First we have to crack open this nut with a 5/8 wrench. Actually, it wasn't even that tight. We'll go a few turns on this just to make it nice and loose. And then we can take an Allen wrench and stick it on the inside of this bolt here, and we can tighten it until it's snug. All right, it's snug right there, and then I'm going to back it off a little bit. We don't want it to be too tight. That's a 1/6 of a turn, and then we'll do a little more, so that's maybe about 1/4 of a turn. All right, and then using an Allen wrench to hold the center screw in place, we can tighten up the outer nut. Does that seem like it has less play? I guess we'll have to drive it to find out. Now, the input shaft on the steering gear, it is supposed to have some play in it, and that's how it controls the hydraulic control valve. All right, so up next, before I do the alignment, I'm going to replace both of the tie rod ends. Now, I already replaced this link here and the pitman arm and this adjusting sleeve. The ball joint on the pitman arm was actually worn pretty badly, and then the other ball joint at the end of this link was not as bad, but it was still a little bit worn. A bunch of you noticed in the last video how far off the steering wheel was, probably off by about 90 degrees. This adjustment sleeve here is responsible for centering the steering wheel, and when I tried to center it last time, I way overcorrected from how it was before, and that's how it resulted in being as bad as it is now. So adjusting this is one of the things that I will do before I end the video. Oh, and take a look at this bracket over here that nothing is connected to. There's supposed to be a steering stabilizer that connects to this and to this link. I don't think this link was original because it does not have a bracket for the stabilizer, so I think that when they replaced this link, they just said it, excuse my language, and they went without a steering stabilizer. The new link that I've purchased has a bracket for it, and I also picked up a stabilizer, which was, these are pretty cheap. It was only like 22 bucks, I think. So tie rod ends are pretty easy to do. This is the tie rod end, and it's held on by this castle nut. The first thing we have to do is remove this cotter pin here. So when it comes to removing ball joints like this, there are multiple ways to do it. One way is to install the nut. Totally not required to install the nut, but it can help prevent the threads from being damaged. And then you hit it with a hammer. I do have the tire here in the way, so it's kind of hard to do this. I don't think I'll be able to get it off like this. All right, I give in. I was trying to do this with the wheels on, and I just don't have enough room to get my tools in there. Very heavy. All right, let's try this with the hammer again. Need a bigger hammer. I think this will be able to get the job done. Well, that was really easy. This is actually part of a front end service set that I bought, made by OTC. These tools come in handy a lot, so I guess I'll put a link in the description below. It is a good quality set of pullers. Yeah, this is what that front end service set looks like. It's got quite a nice assortment of tools in there. So we got the old linkage here and the new one right here with stabilizer. And as for this, I'll probably just assemble it so that it is approximately the same length from ball joint to ball joint. So this just screws in here. And this screws right in here, but it is actually left-hand threads. And that's pretty neat because you can actually just turn this while it's installed in the vehicle, and that will expand or contract this. I didn't actually show the disconnecting of this one on camera, but this needs to be reconnected too. Yeah, and so the rest of this is pretty easy. You just gotta hook up this stabilizer. Fantastic. It's almost like it was made for this. Alright, so with the tie rod installed, it's now time to make sure the steering wheel is straight, and I do that by adjusting this right here. So we have the steering gear, the pitman arm goes to this linkage, there's an adjustment here, and then this linkage runs all the way over here, connects to this tie rod end and to the right wheel. And there's no adjustment over there, so basically what I need to do is adjust this until the right wheel is straight ahead. All right, so the steering wheel is straight and this wheel hub is pointing to the left. So basically what I need to do is I need to expand that linkage. And to make it expand, which way do we turn it? This way? All right, well, I would say that's pretty close, so I think that's a good starting point. Over here on this side, the wheel hub is pointing way far to the left, which is kind of expected because I didn't tighten this down enough. So now let's adjust this and we'll eyeball it close. All right, so it looks like if I just turn it this way, it should draw it in. All right, well that looks like it's pretty close. So next we'll get out the alignment tool and we will do the finishing touches with that. Now as for an alignment, I purchased these on the interwebs. This makes up a 2-wheel alignment kit. These can measure camber, caster, and toe. I'll go ahead and put a link in the description below. Now as for this truck has a solid front axle and the only thing that's adjustable on it is toe. And that makes this really easy because we can't adjust camber and caster, therefore there's no sense in measuring it. So vehicle's on the ground, the surface here is about as level it's gonna get for a dirt and gravel surface. So I have to adjust this so that these things here, that's a technical term, make contact with the wheel. And we want it approximately centered. Now this may seem a little bit basic, and it is, but the kit comes with these measuring tapes. They measure up to a 32nd of an inch, and we'll take these, slip them through here and send them over to the other side of the truck. And then on the other side, we do the same thing. We get it approximately centered. Okay. And then we'll pull the tape measure through here. And now back on this side, I can pull gently and take note of the measurements. You want to pull on both of them gently at the same time. So this one is at 80 inches exactly, and this one is at 80 1/8 of an inch exactly. So we're 1/8 of an inch off. There's a little converter here which tells you that 1/8 of an inch is equal to 0.3 degrees, which is too much. I believe the correct spec for this vehicle is 0 degrees, which is wheels dead on straight, and a little bit of inward toe up to 1/4 of a degree. So the fix is going to be to bring this wheel back out a little bit. When I did my initial adjustment, just eyeballing it, I just went a little bit too far, but I was actually pretty close. Well, that's about half a turn. I guess we'll remeasure it and see how it is. It actually looks like a half a turn was actually a little bit too much. So I'm going to come back maybe 1/4 of a turn, and that'll probably be good.
1 moment later.
That looks like it is just about dead on, so I think we will call that good. So now all I have to do is tighten up this adjusting screw, and it'll lock in the adjustment. Yeah, so I made some more changes to straighten out the steering wheel, and I think it came out pretty well. As for the alignment itself, you know, it definitely feels like an improvement. It drives pretty straight for the most part. And then as for the steering gear, it definitely feels quite a bit tighter. So I think we can call that a success. So now that the steering is tighter and not so loosey-goosey, I finally have some more confidence to drive this thing on the highway at higher speeds. So coming up next, we're going to be going bass fishing. The vast majority of this video is going to be filmed on my GoPro, which can be sometimes unreliable. So hopefully there are no issues there and I get the video out and everything goes fine. And then after that, we're going to be doing a fuel economy run. So thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.